Number 10. Brian Thomas. Brian Thomas had been suffering from sleepwalking ever since he was a child. It had never proven a dangerous condition until July of 2008, when he strangled his wife to death. The couple were on vacation and sleeping in a camper van. When Thomas awakened, he claims to have been horrified upon discovering his wife lying dead next to him. He called the police in shock, telling the operator he thought he'd killed his wife. Later, Thomas would explain he dreamed about fighting an intruder. In 2009, he was declared not guilty and released, free of charge. Number 9. Willis BOSHEARS. US serviceman Willis BOSHEARS was spending the new year abroad, serving in the UK. He'd spent the night drinking with the local woman, Jean Constable, and passed out next to her in his apartment. BOSHEARS awakened to discover he'd strangled his one-night stand. Instead of calling the authorities, BOSHEARS took the body to a remote area and disposed of Constable. A few days later, BOSHEARS ended up confessing to the police. The serviceman was arrested and charged with the woman's murder. BOSHEARS maintained his innocence, explaining he'd been asleep during the attack and had no recollection of that night. It took the jury only 2 hours to decide he was not guilty, acquitting him of murder. Somnambulism, popularly known as sleepwalking, is a disorder that causes people to unconsciously perform activities while asleep. These activities usually last less than 30 minutes, but may lead to violence or self-injuries, and are most frequent in children. In the US, around 1 to 15% of the population continue sleepwalking after adolescence. Number 8. Michael Rickskers. In 1994, Michael Rickskers murdered his wife and afterwards claimed to have no recollection of the incident. His defense attorneys argued he'd committed the crime while sleepwalking. They claimed his sleep apnea had triggered this condition. He reportedly woke up with a gun in his hand and his wife bleeding profusely. Rickskers explained that he'd been dreaming about an intruder breaking into their home. The prosecutor rejected this theory and revealed Rickskers' wife had been planning to leave him. They believed this prompted the man to murder her. Ultimately, the jury believed the prosecutor's version and Rickskers was sentenced to life in prison. Number 7. Scott FALATER. On the night of January the 16th of 1997, Scott FALATER stabbed his wife 44 times while holding her head underwater. He was immediately charged with murder. The prosecutor tried to map up what had happened during and after the attack, using witnesses and expert testimonies. They claimed FALATER had changed his clothes after killing his spouse and placed the knife in a box. He disposed of the murder weapon in a trash bag, along with his socks and shoes. Finally, he put the bag in the spare tire well in his car. FALATER's actions seemed too complex and planned, and the jury didn't believe he had carried them out while sleepwalking. 2 years after the murder, he was sentenced to life in prison and denied the possibility of parole. People all around the world can suffer from this disorder. Most sleepwalkers have no memory of what they do while asleep, and people around them have a hard time when it comes to waking them up. It's recommended never to try and force people dealing with this condition to wake up suddenly, as they might react violently. It's best to guide them to a safe place and try to get them back to a deep slumber. Screaming or acting inappropriately while sleepwalking is common, especially during childhood. Urinating in closets, bumping against walls or furniture, and falling off high places are the most common consequences of sleepwalking. Number 6. Stephen REITZ. Stephen REITZ was having an affair with Ava Weinfurtner back in 2001. They decided to travel to Catalina Island for a romantic getaway, where REITZ claimed to have suffered from homicidal somnambulism. He'd grabbed a flower pot and broken it against Weinfurtner's head. Coroners would find shards buried in her scalp. While attacking the woman, REITZ dislocated her arms, fractured her jaw, wrist, ribs, and skull, then cut the back of her neck with a pocket knife. After discovering Weinfurtner was dead, he claimed having no recollection of the attack. During his trial, REITZ's parents testified their son had sleepwalked since childhood. However, he had a history of violence, having broken into Weinfurtner's apartment and threatening to gut her like a fish while holding a knife. He was convicted of first-degree murder in 2004. Number 5. Jules LOWE. Manchester resident Jules LOWE confessed to his father's murder on October the 30th of 2004. LOWE had been drinking heavily before going to bed. He claimed to have been sleepwalking when he attacked his father, killing him. Over 90 injuries were discovered during the autopsy, and the 83-year-old victim had been kicked, punched, and stomped on. After the murder, Lowe cleaned the scene inefficiently before going back to bed. A neighbor discovered the body lying in the driveway the following morning. Lowe was declared not guilty by reason of insanity, and the judge ordered he be placed in a mental hospital. A particularly dangerous variation of sleepwalking is known as homicidal somnambulism. The veracity of such events is usually highly disputed. This abnormal activity is usually linked to fatigue, anxiety, and stress. Studies have also determined sleepwalking, especially with violent results, is hereditary. If both parents suffer from this condition, a child has a 60% chance of dealing with sleepwalking episodes throughout their lives. As sleepwalkers are not conscious of their surroundings or nightly activities, they may harm others or themselves. There are several documented cases of people claiming to have harmed or even killed their loved ones while asleep. Number 4. Raymond LAZARINE. Raymond LAZARINE was convicted to 75 years in prison after murdering his wife in 2013. He was also ordered to pay a $75,000 fine. During the trial, LAZARINE claimed he'd committed the crime while sleepwalking. He had called his son, telling him that after having a dream about shooting the victim, he woke up to discover it had actually happened. LAZARINE shot his 63-year-old wife 6 times, allegedly while fast asleep. The prosecutor called witnesses that described LAZARINE as an abusive husband and a heavy drinker. He had threatened his wife's life multiple times before the murder, making it hard for the jury to believe the homicidal somnambulism theory. Number 3. ALYSON BAIR. 31-year-old ALYSON BAIR woke up late one night in 2012, feeling disoriented and cold. While sleepwalking, she'd swum in the Snake River in Idaho and was suffering from severe hypothermia. BAIR eventually managed to make it back to shore, but wouldn't be rescued until the following morning. That wasn't the first time she found herself in such dire situations. The mother of 2 had woken up in several different rooms of her home, and even out on the streets. To prevent this from happening again, the family installed an alarm that BAIR didn't know the code to, so that she couldn't turn it off while asleep. If she tried to get out of the house, her husband and children were immediately awakened and could rush to her aid. If a person discovers they're sleepwalking, it's best to immediately visit a doctor. Medicine can be prescribed to deal with this condition, as well as therapy and other treatments. Several doctors have also warned about the risks of allowing this defense in court, as it can be appropriated by people trying to use it as a cover for their crimes. In order to prevent this from happening, the defendant should have a clear history of suffering from sleep disorders and to have been seen behaving in ways they wouldn't during their normal lives. Today's topic was requested by Ricky Utley and Dee Marie Howard. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Kenneth James Parks. Kenneth James Parks was a 23-year-old man known to his in-laws as a gentle giant. He was married, had a 5-year-old daughter, and reportedly enjoyed a good relationship with his wife's parents. However, Parks had developed a gambling addiction, which had caused him to start embezzling money from his workplace and stealing from his family. He was allegedly asleep when in May of 1987, he drove to his in-laws' house in Ontario, 12 miles away from his residence. Parks used his key to enter the home and then bludgeoned his wife's mother with a tire iron. Though he attempted to choke his father-in-law to death, Parks was unsuccessful. Afterwards, he simply got back in his car, covered in blood, and drove to a police station. He turned himself in, claiming he couldn't remember the incident at all. Few people believed him at first, until an electroencephalogram was conducted. Its readings were highly irregular, even for a person suffering from insomnia. The jury would eventually acquit Parks. Several doctors consulted on the case, some of whom believed he should have been declared not guilty by reason of insanity. Number 1. Matthew Phelps. On September the 1st of 2017, Matthew James Phelps stabbed his wife Lauren over 123 times in their Raleigh home in North Carolina. He later claimed to have taken too much cough medicine the night before. Phelps's attorneys argued that this drug had caused him to sleepwalk and murder his wife without being conscious of his actions. The prosecutor, though, painted a different picture of the crime. Phelps was unable to keep his spending under control, and although his checking account was empty, he kept on purchasing new video game related items and subscriptions. He eventually accepted a deal offered by the prosecution and pled guilty to the murder of his wife to avoid the death penalty. Thanks for watching. If you were a sleepwalker, would you rather wake up in the middle of a freezing lake or on the edge of a tall building? Let us know in the comments section below.